This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime. In association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.
Incredible India is a land of contrast and has so much to offer the traveller. From our breathtaking mountains and valleys to gorgeous beaches and sand dunes, there's more on offer here than many parts of the world. It is expected to grow for another decade or so at almost 7%, which will make India the world's third fastest growing tourist economy. For a country brought up on a staple of package tours and holidays back to the hometown, the opportunity to try something new is now being grabbed with open arms. With the tourism industry experiencing a continued growth and diversification over decades, and with India becoming a major tourist attraction center, adventure tourism is now being introduced to the game as an add-on to its natural heritage and cultural potpourri.
The industry is going to go massive in the coming 10 years, and it's up to us that if we harness this or not.
And adventure tourism a niche within this space.
In India, whether it's scuba diving in the Andamans, whether it's climbing or trekking in the Himalayan range or the Sahyadris or going caving in the northeast, river rafting on the Ganga has become so popular. We've got just about everything going for ourselves. I mean, there is so much, and through different geographical terrains, whether it's cruising down the Brahmaputra or even the wildlife safari potential here, camel safaris in Rajasthan, every possible activity which comes under adventure tourism is possible in India.
Despite being a niche market as compared to that in the West, adventure tourism is fast evolving, and facts from studies suggest that the industry has grown double its size in the past 5 or 6 years and is only expected to grow more with time. It is estimated that on an average, 20 lakh people participate in adventure tourism in India. There is a fair share of people coming from outside the country, with a number of tourists in search of adventure, be it sports or any other activity, increasing manifold during the recent years. Adventure tourism involves exploration of remote areas along with sporting daredevil activities, with its increasing popularity and more exploration of exotic locales within India. Adventure tourism has now become one of the top holidaying choices amongst Indians, with some of the top popular adventure tour destinations being Leh, Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Arunachal Pradesh and other parts of northeast India, all of which offer an adventure experience matching to the terrain. While mountaineering, trekking, mountain biking, canoeing and kayaking are a few of the more popular sports among foreigners, Indian adventure seekers are generally gung-ho on trekking and rafting, especially rafting during weekends.
It's heartening to see the way adventure tourism is beginning to blossom in our country. Initially, it was perceived as sort of, death-defying kind of stuff. But today, Indians have realized that done properly, with all the safety guidelines, with good equipment, with good guides, adventure tourism can be extremely safe.
Out of the 14 highest mountain peaks in the world, Everest still remains the pinnacle of mountaineering achievements. And each year, despite the snowstorms, avalanche hazards and biting cold, thousands of people clamor to reach the summit in an attempt to claim a new record. While some of us may quench our adventure thirst by climbing simpler mountains or doing trekking trips, there are others who dream of an Everest conquest. And Arjun Vajpayee is one such person who made his dream come true in 2010 and became the youngest Indian to climb the Everest.
Sitting in classrooms was just not my job. So I didn't have these studies at least bit bothering me to dreaming about Everest when I was 16, but I still remember I think in my 6th grade when I first time read about Everest in the very same school I passed out from, and it was the first chapter was on Bachindri Pal, Everest Meri Shikhar Yatra in our Hindi books, and I was like, wow, like people actually do this thing, right? And I was 10 years old back then. Little did I know that in 6 years I would actually make it, but it was a slow process. Dreaming about Everest wasn't that I just dreamt something overnight and it happened.
Ever since Sir Edmund Hillary in Tenzing Norgay first proved in 1953 that standing atop the world's tallest peak was possible, Everest has been synonymous with challenge and adventure, with a total of 6,871 ascents of Everest as of February 2014.
Great. And to show you, so you see this? This is what you see from here. This is what it is. This is my world. And I am in love with this.
The highest mountain in the world at 29,000 feet, it is shaped like a three-sided pyramid with sharp ridges and deep rifts along the tricky climb. Its summit is always capped with rock-hard snow, while the glaciers cover its slopes closer to the base.
You know, it was a dream come true at 22nd May 2010 at 6:18 a.m. India time. I was unfurling the national flag on the summit of Everest, and I could see the earth go round in front of me, like standing at 29,035 feet, the highest point on this earth. It still gives me goosebumps, right? Remembering of those 15 minutes which I spent on the summit. You're so high out there that you can actually see the earth bend in front of your eyes, and on that earth's curvature you can see the sunrise. You're looking down at the sun when the sun is rising. Half of the sky is still black. The rays are reaching out. You can see the light travel across the sky, and it's beautiful. It is just outstanding.
The climate on Everest is severe and incapable of supporting sustained human occupation. And despite of all the difficulties and challenges that mountaineers be presented with, Indians have emerged as the third highest conquerors of Mount Everest among foreign climbers, with 19 of them successfully climbing the world's highest peak.
Okay, so I have reached, let's say finally.
These expeditions take a lot out of you. So you've got to train really hard, you've got to train for endurance. There are only 14 mountains in this world which go above an altitude of 8,000 meters. 8,000 meters is the mark set by mountaineers. They say it's the dead zone, so above that there are 1/3 of what the oxygen levels are out here. And there are, your brain cells are dying, there's water seeping into your lungs, there's water seeping between your brain and your skull, your stomach muscles are contracting, it's like you're dying out there.
This is Arjun.
The journey to Everest is a long and arduous one. Nearly 265 people have died while trying to summit Everest, and the graves of the deceased that are situated on its slopes are a gruesome reminder of how perilous the journey is.
Yes.
Every year, more and more people, both young and old, join on an expedition to the summit. Like any successful endeavour, an Everest expedition also requires long months of sincere training. And despite the fact that modern climbing equipments may have created a lot of ease for mountaineers undertaking perilous expeditions like an Everest climb, acquiring technical skills and being mentally prepared for such an undertaking remain of high importance.
These are our climbing shoes which we wear specifically on higher mountains. Anything above 7,000 or 7,500 meters would require a shoe like this, sort of the same grading. It's a Mie 8,000 meter boot, 3-layer boot, protects you from having frost bites in your toes. This is what we use to get a good grip on ice and snow. These are crampons. You see these spikes, so they give us a good grip on the ice. We've got what we call a mountaineer's third leg. This is an ice axe. This is one of the most important things which we use on most of the mountains. Last thing we have out here is this Jumar. So this Jumar actually is one of the, it's a very smart invention actually, which was done by mountaineers. So you fit this on the rope goes through this like this, and once you close in the clip has actually teeth towards the inner side. So this clip only goes one way. So every time you pull the rope down and you slide it up, it's only going to stay up, it's not going to come down. So you can pull yourself up and keep sliding on the rope. So it's a very nice, smart invention.
With a rapidly growing tourism industry that is creating millions of jobs every year, India is fast evolving into a lucrative market for anyone willing to start off a career in tourism. For people who love adventure and outdoors, who can manage people and communicate well, and are willing to patiently serve the initial hard work and challenges, a career in this industry will definitely be the most promising and satisfying.
5 years down the line, people used to call me, people were like, my mom and dad used to say like, लोग पूछेंगे तो हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे, हमारा लड़का क्या करता है, पहाड़ चढ़ता है. So I've also gone through that stage, and to be honest, yes, what would they say, it's quite funny, but now the situation has changed. I think there are so many more younger people from India who've climbed Everest. I got to know that there's a 13-year-old Indian girl who climbed Everest, and I honestly am so proud of that,
Perhaps an Everest conquest is not everyone's cup of tea. And despite all the excitement adventure tours may have about them, some of us would still like to indulge in a wholesome travel experience that is not just luxurious but also culturally immersive. We had a chance to speak with Mr. Mandeep Singh Soin, the founder of Ibex Expeditions. He is a mountaineer, an explorer and an ecotourism and adventure travel specialist. So why don't you tell us that how did you start off with Ibex Expeditions?
Yeah, so basically it started off as a passion about 35 years ago, and it was because I was involved in the world of outdoors and climbing and trekking, and although I studied to join the government, the IAS or Foreign Service, but I had taken a year off in Europe and I started instructing there, and I thought it'd be wonderful to stay in that kind of atmosphere and do stuff you liked, and presumably if you did stuff you liked, you would deliver it well for your customers.
How do you think has the business environment changed from when you started off to now?
I think there were very few companies on the landscape then, and it was nascent, and we were possibly one of the earlier ones and so on. So there were a lot of challenges because nobody understood adventure travel. The government wasn't really putting any budget towards even talking of adventure travel because it was a very thin slice of the market, and obviously our market was all aimed at foreign travelers that would come to India because locally there was no interest.
What do you think is the level of acceptance amongst Indians, because adventure tourism is a pretty new concept in India as compared to what it is in West?
I would say that in India now there's much greater awareness and therefore a real demand as well, because obviously things like the National Geographic and the Discovery channels, lots of magazines, people's ability to go abroad, see what's happening, has fired that sort of interest. And over a period of time, I think for people who've journeyed in the Himalaya, even at the softer level, you can go and do rafting, you can go and do jeep safaris, or indeed wildlife. All that has spurred a kind of an interest now, where people are actually wanting to do holidays which are around an element of adventure.
What do you think are the major challenges that a youngster would have to face who wants to start off a new business in this industry?
First thing is that you need to, if you want to do adventure tourism, you need to be trained in at least one of the disciplines. So you need to be either a rafting guide or a climber or a trekker or a wildlife expert, because without that domain knowledge, whatever follows later could be an uphill. But I think there needs to be the real involvement, because it's not like a cookie cutter bank job or a corporate job where you can learn on the stuff and you just treat it like, because there's a lot to do with how you deliver the product.
So what would be the message that you would want to give to a young entrepreneur who wants to make a career in this industry?
Start by thinking how you define wealth. And in my way of looking, and my wife and our team here, we think that wealth is all about collecting memories, not possessions. So if that fundamental is clear and you're not gunning after millions, then I think it's a great lifestyle, and that's the way to go.
It's time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we have my colleague Simar, who is with a bunch of enthusiastic students with their queries on adventure tourism, and an expert who is going to answer all of them. Welcome back. We've been looking at various aspects of adventure tourism in India, hearing from young climbers and of course experts like Mandeep Singh Soin. I have with me now a bunch of youngsters who are keen to know more about the industry, and also with me now Akshay Kumar, CEO of Mercury Himalayan Explorations and also the President of Adventure Tour Operators Association of India. So thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, let's get you guys started. Who has the first question?
Could you tell us what exactly the scene is like in India regarding adventure tourism? What does it involve? And as a layman, if you have to choose between the various activities, how do you go about doing that?
See, adventure travel in India is really big right now. Initially, it was just a bunch of foreigners who used to come in from across the world and do these really hardcore adventure activities like mountaineering or rafting expeditions or going on a 25-day trek. But then, mid and late 90s, the market started changing and the domestic client became a lot more aware that there is something available than just going to Mussoorie and staying in a hotel.
Yeah.
So they started looking at active options on what they can do with holidays. That's when we had areas like Manali that really started off as a big center for adventure travel with rafting on the Beas and stuff like that. And today, adventure travel in India is huge. You can pick up any metro city, you can pick up any tier 2 city, you will have some adventure activities happening either in the vicinity or within a few hours drive.
As a person, if you want to start off a venture, as an entrepreneur who want to start off something in adventure tourism, how a person goes about it, how to start with it?
And also to sort of, I think, to add to her question, how do you, carve a niche for yourself that, you need to specialize in something or, cater to a particular kind of audience. How can one do that?
Two interesting questions. I think first of all, if you're not passionate about this activity, if you're not passionate about adventure, do not look at coming into this industry. There has to be a lot of passion. This is one industry that is not just a job, it's a passion for it. And it's a passion that takes it to the next level. And something that you said is great, that you need to specialize in a certain activity. So if you pick up rafting, for example, you need to, number one, be a rafting guide yourself. Okay, there are companies today where they are hotel owners running rafting companies. They don't have a passion for it. So what happens is there is a compromise on safety and quality or the environment degradation at some level. And the moment that starts happening, you ruin the activity.
So sir, we are all aware that you had led the first rafting descent of the mighty Sangpo in Arunachal Pradesh. My question to you here is, what sort of preparation goes into a descent like that?
It was a very scary idea. This was a joint expedition we did with the Indo-Tibetan Border Police. We trained for a month on the Ganga.
Yes, sir.
This team could actually do anything you wanted them to do. We did not have any maps at that point. So we literally went in blind with a lot of climbing equipment. Some of it members are selected who are mountaineers and climbers, that if you got stuck in the gorge, we knew how to pull ourselves out. So we took day at a time. We set our limits. If we thought we could not do something, there was no shame in just walking around that area.
So my question was, where do I get the equipment for camping, trekking, and maybe a little bit of climbing here and there?
Okay.
And if I can find a person who can coach us, maybe teach us a little bit in the beginning of our trip,
Sure.
and then maybe we can pick up from there and go further.
There is a nice 15 days or a 21 days program that is offered by the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering or the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute. These are government-run centers. They charge you 4,000 rupees for a 21 days course, a residential program, which is like peanuts, but it is one of the most, I would say one of the most rich programs that we have in adventure travel today, you need to go with a company whose guides are qualified in mountain rescue and what we call a woofer and a first aid program. They need to be qualified for wilderness first aid.
So I recently had a conversation with my father, and he would trek a lot back in the day. And he was telling me about youth hostels in areas like Darjeeling, where people would actually leave journals that would inform people about the hardships that one faced during trekking. What I want to know is, what is the modern day equivalent of those journals? Is there a blog? Is there a website? How do like-minded people network if they want to go for a trek?
There are lots of blogs and websites. There are lots of blogs and websites. I mean, we ourselves do a lot of our clients who write blogs for us when they go on trips, and a lot of the other companies that you might be going with. So today the best way to get clients for us is word of mouth.
Perfect. We hope all of your questions were answered, and Akshay, thank you so much for joining us today. That's a wrap on the show. Thanks for watching.
Catch the Heads Up episodes you might have missed during the week at these times only on NDTV Prime.